So this is Paul. He's a driving instructor from New Zealand, and he's on holiday at the moment, and he wanted to see if he could pass the driving test in Great Britain. So tell them a little bit about yourself. How long have you been a driving instructor for?
So I qualified in 2019.
Yep.
I'd been an engineer for an awful long time before that and decided I needed to try something new, and I realised that I enjoyed teaching people after I taught my own daughters to drive. So after about 3 or 4 people I taught to drive, I decided to qualify as an instructor in 2019.
And do you teach mostly manual or automatic?
And in New Zealand it's mostly automatic, because probably 95% of people will sit the test in an automatic car in New Zealand. So I occasionally do manual, and I'm quite happy to do manual, but yeah, it's mostly automatic.
And how experienced are you at driving manual yourself?
I feel I'm experienced because I've always had manual cars available to me because I enjoy driving manual.
Okay.
I can even remember berating my father for saying, "Why aren't you driving a manual car?" when he was teaching me to drive, because the only car we had available to us was the family car, and it was an automatic, because they were sort of freely available from Australia at the time. But there was still a lot of manual cars on the road, so I remember being really keen to learn manual, and my father had to borrow my uncle's Ford Escort for me to learn manual. And I've always had a manual car available to me, so I do enjoy it, but I'm not at your level.
So
you
are experienced with manual then?
Yes, but I do enjoy watching your videos about rev matching and clutch control, things like that.
So I'll tell you a bit about the test.
Yes.
During a real mock test, your driving examiner in Great Britain would let you cause minor damage to this car if you hit a curb, or if you were to hit maybe a post gently.
Yes.
I wouldn't allow that to happen.
Yes.
Although I don't think that is going to happen, because you are a very experienced driver. I don't think I'm going to need to do that, but I tell you that anyway.
Yes.
And I make the test as difficult as possible.
Yes.
So I choose the hardest routes that they use,
Yes.
the hardest junctions, and also I use the harshest examples I've seen in terms of how they mark the test.
Right.
So if it's possible it's a fail, I'll make it a fail. But it doesn't necessarily mean it will be a fail.
Yes.
I am going to get your driving examiner. It's Jason.
Jason today. Okay, lovely. Well, this is the first time I've ever driven in Colchester, so we'll see how we get on.
I'm Jason, who are you?
Hello, Jason. My name's Paul.
Paul. Can I call you Paul?
You can call me Paul.
Of course I can. I've got to ask that anyway.
You can call me anything you like. Hey,
Do you want me to tell you about the test?
Yes, please.
It's going to be between 38 and 40 minutes.
Yes.
It's going to take into account various road and traffic conditions. I may ask you to do the emergency stop, and I will ask you to do a manoeuvre. For part of the test, you're going to be following the sat-nav. And when you're not following the sat-nav, I want you to follow the road ahead, unless I say left or right. You got that?
Correct, yes.
I'll ask you a question now. How do you know if there's a problem with your ABS?
All right, so you would first start the car, the ABS warning light would come on, and it should go out shortly after starting, and it should stay out for the entire journey. If it comes on, you've got a problem.
Okay. Right, move away when you're ready.
Okay, cool.
Paul starts to move the car very slightly before checking his blind spot. Ideally, he should check his blind spot and then move, but he doesn't move enough before the blind spot check for it to likely be marked on the driving test.
Second road right. They're too close together, so it's the second right.
Second right. Delay the signal a wee bit.
Good observations from Paul. He seems very much aware of his surroundings. It's also good that he manages to steer into the correct side of the road despite there being a parked car on the previous road in a position that made this more difficult.
Next road right.
A sensible speed down this road, and it's good that he returns to his side of the road before the right turn so that if he needed to wait for an oncoming vehicle, he wouldn't be in the way. It's up to Paul as to whether or not he drives around this learner vehicle that's practicing the parallel park, as long as he does it safely, and he does. He uses his signal to warn the learner driver that he's about to drive around them, and he does it slowly, making sure the learner driver has time to spot us, and he only commits once he is confident that the learner is waiting. However, he is now signalling left, which is misleading, as it looks like we're going to pull over at the side of the road, and the driver in that learner vehicle may think, oh, as we are parking behind them, it's safe for the driver in that learner vehicle to drive up the road because no one's actually going to be passing them. So this signal to the left is not necessary, it's not helping anyone, but also is actually misleading. So this should be a minor mark for signals correctly.
Pull over on the left before the bus stop.
Good, cautious observations before pulling over. And good stop position at the side of the road.
You see that blue car?
Yes.
I want you to pull up alongside it and do the parallel park.
Parallel park. Okay.
Finishing within 2 car lengths of the car and near the curb. Don't worry about the driveway on this occasion.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Good observations before moving away from the curb. The method he uses for this maneuver doesn't matter, but what does matter is that he finishes in a good position and his observations are good enough that he notices anybody who is approaching before they have a chance to reach us, and he gives way to them if he is affecting them negatively. If he's not affecting them, he can continue. Or if he's at the stage of the maneuver where actually continuing helps, then he should continue. Also, he has to maintain good control of the vehicle throughout the maneuver.
Oop, I'll touch the curb.
He has touched the curb gently in a way that's not going to damage the tyre. Let's see how he deals with it.
Oh, we're close. I'll go back a wee bit.
He didn't check his right shoulder before he started reversing, and before he starts going backwards, particularly after he's gone forwards, he should check all around, including both blind spots. So this could be a serious mark on the driving test for observations during this maneuver. It may not be though, because he only reverses a little bit. That's going to come down to the judgment of the examiner as to whether or not what he did was safe. I didn't mention this in the debrief because during the test I don't make notes. At the end of the test I go back through it in my head and then I make notes afterwards, and I missed this one off.
Okay, there we are, all done.
Thank you, move away when you're ready.
He may get a minor mark for control during this maneuver because he touched the curb. However, he did touch it so gently he may get away with it. Touching the curb or not finishing the maneuver properly is marked as control on the DL25 driving test form, even though technically it's an accuracy issue, but they don't have an accuracy checkbox, so they tick the control box.
End of road left.
He signalled before checking his mirrors there. That can be a minor mark on the driving test. Sometimes Paul uses his left foot for braking. This is acceptable on the driving test as long as he maintains good control of the vehicle at all times. When he passes the next parked vehicle, he checks the centre and right mirror before moving to the right, but he doesn't check the centre and left mirror before moving back to the left. However, this is unlikely to be marked because he doesn't steer much, and the steering he does do is very gradual.
A bit rough.
Good use of the right signal to let the van driver know that we want to come round, but he signals left again after passing the vehicle. This just makes it look like he wants to stop at the side of the road. But on this occasion, there isn't actually anyone following us or anyone in front to mislead, so it's unlikely going to be marked on test.
I was warned about the potholes in Great
End of
Britain.
road left.
End of road left.
Pay attention to Paul throughout this test to see if it's normal for him to signal before checking the relevant mirrors. It's good that Paul manages to keep it on the correct side of the road when turning left at that junction, and it's good that he took his time with his observations because it's quite hard to see right there due to the way the road bends and the parked cars.
See the blue car?
Blue car, yes.
Pull up one car length before it. Don't worry about the driveways or the yellow lines.
One car length.
This is for both the hill start and the angle start.
That'll do.
There. Okay. Ooh.
I'm now going to ask you to follow the sat nav.
Sat nav.
Move away when you're ready.
The handbrake is off for this hill start, and he's going to lift the clutch to the bite point with his foot on the foot brake. This means the car's computer is going to have to prevent the engine from stalling. This isn't marked on test, but it won't work in all cars. Now we have a potential problem. The road is relatively quiet, yet Paul has been signalling to move away from the side of the road when a vehicle has been approaching from behind. If the approaching car stops and lets Paul move away, this can actually be a fail on the driving test in Great Britain. That's because a signal should not be used as a request unless there is a need, such as heavy traffic. The road is clearly quiet, so he should not be using the signal to ask or even put approaching traffic under pressure to let him out. Before moving away, he should wait for an opportunity where he is not going to affect other road users. Before you give me a hard time in the comments, please remember, I don't make the rules. This is something I have seen being marked as a serious on a driving test and therefore a driving test fail. However, as no one stopped to let him out, this won't be marked. That's an example of how luck can play a part in the driving test. Nice smooth acceleration up the hill, and he is maintaining a safe distance from the parked cars in case they open their doors. Also, when he approaches the oncoming vehicles and has to get closer to the parked vehicles, he slows down enough that if someone was to open a door in one of those parked vehicles, he is minimizing the risk. He recognises the zebra crossing early and slows down gradually, giving the pedestrian time to finish crossing without any harsh braking.
When it's safe, if you could show me how to use the horn.
Okay. I'll wait so I don't scare the pedestrian.
Thank you.
In 300 yards, your destination will be on the left.
That destination's just a way marker. I'd like to continue following the road ahead.
Okay.
He's not using the parking brake whilst waiting at the traffic lights, and many people think this is a mark on the driving test, but it isn't, as long as he maintains good control of the vehicle.
What would you normally be doing today?
Well, normally I'm on holiday, excuse me, at the moment, but normally I would be doing lessons in Christchurch, New Zealand. Usually try and do about 4 to 5 driving lessons a day.
Do you drive a BMW?
No,
Good.
I drive a Toyota. The equivalent of your Yaris hybrid. Well, this has a different name. Because most people in New Zealand only drive automatic, and I wouldn't have much of a job if I only did manual, unfortunately. Although I would like to drive manual, or teach, manual more often. And what about yourself, Jason? What would you be doing if you weren't doing lessons or correction testing today?
Maybe if you talk a little bit louder.
Oh, sorry, okay, yep. So, Jason, what would you be doing on your day off if you weren't doing driving assessments?
None of your business.
Okay. Secret agent.
In 50 yards, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Southway, A134.
He's chosen lane 3 to go ahead here, and he can use lane 2 and 3, but if you know the area, lane 2 is much easier. Let's see how this goes. The road markings have faded, so he can't see that his lane is branching away from the roundabout.
Beside me, no.
Exit the roundabout onto Southway.
Okay, my mistake. I'll go round again.
Therefore, he stays too close to the roundabout and ends up in a different lane entirely, and he's stuck turning right now.
Continue for 200 yards.
The lack of road markings have caused this issue, but he's dealing with it calmly and safely.
If your viewers are interested, our roundabouts are quite different in New Zealand. The lanes are usually clearly marked, very faded here in the UK. And we almost never have, in fact I don't know of any roundabouts in New Zealand that have traffic lights on them. Not where I live at least.
The reality of driving in Great Britain is that if you don't know a junction well, you may not know where to position your vehicle due to the lack of road markings.
Yeah.
Exit the roundabout onto
Change
Southway.
lanes. Now,
Good observations to his left side before moving to the left to leave the roundabout.
lanes, aren't they?
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the 4th exit onto Bulkern Hill, A134.
Fourth exit. So turning right, quarter mile,
To help with your planning, you'll find it easier to use the middle lane. here.
middle lane. Thank you.
I can help him with lane choice if there's no way of him knowing which lane he needs on approach to a junction until it's too late.
Turning right, third exit.
Good approach speed to this roundabout, he makes a good decision and he maintains a good position throughout. He does well here. Also, he uses the signal in a way that is helpful and not misleading.
One. Number 2. Change lane.
Exit the roundabout onto Bulkern Hill. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the 3rd exit onto Middleborough.
Quarter mile, roundabout.
Did you see the Porsche GT3?
Yes, in bright blue, or Pascal blue. Right, third exit. Change lane.
Good forward planning, he chooses the appropriate lane.
I used to have an Audi.
Did you? And what happened to that car then?
Can't afford it.
Oh,
So I'm sitting here.
oh, I see.
This doesn't pay as well as my last job.
Oh, that's a shame.
Boot was big enough to fit a human in it.
Right, the third. That was 1. That was 2.
Ideally, he should be moving to the left lane now so that he's ready to leave safely.
We need to change lane. Whoops.
Now he is in a position where he needs to leave the roundabout suddenly and dart across the left lane. He does check to make sure it is safe first, and fortunately no one has come up alongside us, so it is safe to leave the roundabout.
Exit the roundabout onto Middleborough. In 200 yards, at the roundabout, take the 1st exit onto North Station Road.
"20 is plenty." I've heard that somewhere. 20 is plenty. Turn left. Something we don't have in New Zealand is mini roundabouts.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the 2nd exit onto Cowdray Avenue, A133.
Do you have many villains?
Villains, yes, we have a lot of gang problems in New Zealand. Did you used to deal with villains in your previous employment?
Can't tell you that.
Can't tell me.
No.
Okay. Otherwise you'd have to kill me.
Something like that.
All right, where are we going? Turn right, third exit.
The speed limit is 20 miles per hour and he has been consistently over that limit on this road. The most was by 5 miles per hour, but that was brief and on a downhill section, so it's possible he may be let off. But when you combine that with the fact he's been a little bit over the limit throughout this road, I think the most likely outcome is an examiner will give him a minor mark and see if he continues to go over the speed limit on other roads during the test. If he was to maintain 25 miles per hour for not very long, actually. The examiners don't tend to wait very long when a driver is that much over the limit before they say something. the examiner would have asked him to slow down and a serious mark would have been given. They don't consider the accuracy of the speedometer and how that may compare to GPS speed during the test. They go by what the speedometer in the car is reading. He is signalling right before this road on the right, so he's signalling too early. This would be a minor mark for signals timed. However, it's not going to be as serious because on this occasion, in these circumstances, his early signal isn't actually causing danger.
Did you know a chap called Bond by any chance? Used to work for MI6.
Don't talk about him.
Oh, okay. Not one of your favourites.
Exit the roundabout onto Cowdray Avenue.
Okay, so change.
Good observations on this roundabout. He is very much aware of his surroundings.
Another thing we don't teach in New Zealand is to change lanes on the ring.
In a quarter of a mile,
I
your
can tell.
destination will be on the left.
That's another waypoint.
Yeah, follow the road ahead, please, when you get to that waypoint.
Okay, cool. There's lots of little differences between countries, obviously. Part of the reason for doing this, of course, is to see if I can, after only watching Richard's YouTube videos. He's a chap, by the way, who does YouTube
Your
videos.
destination is on the left.
Please follow the road ahead and continue to follow the sat-nav.
At the next set of traffic lights, he stops a little bit late. My judgment tells me the wheels are on the stop line and therefore the front of the car is overhanging slightly. I doubt he stops late enough that this would be a serious mark, but it would very likely be a minor mark for response to traffic lights.
Someone else told me once, when a pause becomes a wait, use the handbrake. And 20 is plenty. I've got to think of one for 30. I've come up with 30 now is thrifty. 30 being the same as 20 from my country.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto St Andrews Avenue, A133.
So straight, second exit. A133.
At the next roundabout, he slows down gently and approaches at a safe speed. He takes a safe opportunity and he doesn't allow the car to roll back. Also, when he gets going, he manages to keep the car in his lane, which is something many drivers here don't do properly, and you have to be wary of other drivers cutting across into your lane. And he does this despite a black car sticking out into his lane. He still managed it very well.
Exit the roundabout onto St Andrews Avenue. In 300 yards, at the roundabout, take the second exit and stay on St Andrews Avenue, A133.
Straight, second exit.
Another very safe approach speed towards the roundabout. He's slowing down at a rate where he doesn't have to brake hard if he needs to stop, and he is keeping the car prepared so that he is ready to go if there is an opportunity. Also, he maintains a good position throughout the roundabout.
Exit the roundabout onto St Andrews Avenue.
He has realised the two lanes merge and he is already checking his right mirror to prepare.
You on St Andrews Avenue for half a mile.
Well prepared and safe lane merge.
The volume that you talk at, in my experience, won't come across well. You won't hear it. So just, if you want to say something,
Bring it.
Bit deliberate.
Yes, okay.
Might be alright, but I'm not sure. This is usually the volume I feel I need to talk at
Okay,
for it to be clear.
clear. Yep. Okay. Oh, if it helps, while we're quietly driving along, I did mention the fact that in New Zealand, we don't change lane usually on the multi-lane roundabout. Our lane markings are usually very clear. Yours are very faded.
In a quarter of a mile, at Greenstead roundabout, take the first exit and stay on St Andrews Avenue, A133.
So turning left first. So we deal in kilometres per hour, not miles per
To
hour.
help with your planning, you'll find it easier to use the middle lane.
Middle lane, okay. Thank you.
It's usually easier to start in the left lane and move to the middle lane when the two lanes split to 3. However, on this occasion you can actually go to the middle lane from both the left and the right lane. A very late signal and probably a minor for signals timed.
Aha, magic roundabout.
In 50 yards, at Greenstead roundabout, take the second exit and stay on St Andrews Avenue, A133.
Another very late signal and no mirror checks.
In 50 yards, at Greenstead roundabout, take the first exit onto Clingo Hill, A133.
He makes a safe lane change, but generally throughout this test he seems to be signalling before checking the mirrors. He takes a good opportunity and manages to keep it within the speed limit on the next road.
Similar to the Swindon roundabout then.
I'm impressed with his knowledge. He seems to know a lot about Great Britain and he doesn't live here.
50. So something for me, for the viewers, is we deal in kilometres per hour and metres. So yards and miles per hour takes a bit of getting your head round. Although we do drive on the same side of the road, thankfully.
We are going very slow for this road, but that is because of the car in front. This time he checks his mirrors before signalling and then checks them again to make sure it's safe to change lane.
50.
Which side are your indicators on?
So I prefer this side. My own personal car has the indicators on this side because it's a Volkswagen, but probably 60 to 70% of the cars in New Zealand would be the opposite way around. So it's always frustrating.
That sounds confusing.
It does. You get in cars and say to people, come on, get going, can't you see I'm washing my windscreen for you? Because you're trying to flash your headlights. That's frustrating. Right, dual carriageway, 70. Our maximum speed is 100, which is 62. So there's a small difference.
This road has a central reservation and therefore the speed limit is 70 miles per hour. He takes a long time to get to 70. In fact, he speeds up, slows down, then speeds up again. But overall, he does seem to go fast enough that I'm confident he wouldn't get a minor for going too slow. And he reached 68 miles per hour as a top speed. If my pupils drive down this road in these excellent conditions and only do 60 miles per hour, usually they will get a minor mark for going too slow.
In half a mile, turn left onto Tye Road.
Half a mile. It's about 800 metres.
Take the second left onto Tye Road, then your destination will be on the left.
Second left.
This left, first left.
Your destination is on the left.
Pull over on the left in a safe place. That's the end of the sat-nav. I
Okay.
don't know why it said second left. It was the first.
Oh, fair enough.
Move away when you're ready.
Can't always rely on sat-nav. Made me late yesterday for the Eurostar. We had to get the next one. 200 euros later. Drive to the conditions. National speed limit. I found some amazing roads that people in New Zealand would be horrified to think that you could drive at 100 kilometres an hour on. Of course, use common sense, drive to the conditions. Okay, coming the other way.
You probably can't see it on camera, but you can probably tell it from my face. He brushes against the bush here and causes minor scratches to the side of my car. They'll buff out, but that's luck. Sometimes something harder can be sticking out from the side, which causes damage. If he wasn't sure he could fit, he should have slowed down and waited. There is enough room to fit with oncoming cars here, and he should have taken more space. I'm kicking myself that I didn't take the wheel. Usually I'll just push the wheel slightly in this situation to stop my pupil from hitting the bush. But as he is a driving instructor, I feel less inclined to do so.
How much money does a driving instructor earn in New Zealand?
Our lessons are $80 an hour. Paying tax and all the rest of it, I suppose I would earn somewhere around about $30,000 a year after tax.
We can see an oncoming large vehicle, a tractor, and we can see somewhere where we need to wait. His left foot is covering the brake, but that's not really a big issue because he would have to move his right foot from the gas to the brake anyway to slow down, so it's not actually wasting him any time. He has time to wait in this area, but he doesn't. He carries on and then drives over the embankment on the grass, risking damage to my vehicle at 14 miles per hour. If he had to go on this embankment, he must do it very slow to not risk damage to the car. Next time I see something like this about to happen, I need to forget that he's an instructor and not worry about pride here and take those controls because he is risking damage to my car.
I did used to earn probably almost twice that, but the job did my head in. So I figured it was better to earn less and enjoy life more. I could do more lessons, but I find the balance I do at the moment is about right for me. How much does a driving instructor in the UK earn on average? Pretty
I'm
loose
not a driving instructor, I'm an examiner.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Not enough to own a W8 Audi.
Oh, I see. Okay. I don't know if I could be a driving examiner, especially in New Zealand.
He's leaving it a little bit late to pass this cyclist. He's getting quite close to that bend, and this is a 60 mile per hour road, so someone could come around that bend quickly and we would be on the wrong side of the road. It would have been better if Paul caught up with the cyclist sooner so that he tried to overtake the cyclist at the beginning of the straight. However, I think he does it early enough that it's just about safe. I know the cyclist was in the middle of the road earlier, but if Paul would have caught up sooner, I believe the cyclist would have moved to the left sooner.
That allows people to treat their driving tests as lessons. So there's no compunction in New Zealand to get any professional driving lessons. The average kid in New Zealand seems to think that, why should I pay when mum and dad can teach me for free, and then I can just sit the test, and if I fail I can sit the test, and if I fail I sit the test and I fail, and they just keep doing them like lessons until they eventually manage to scrape through. Because the government came up with this crazy idea that said you pay once and you can have as many free resits as you like. And all the driving instructors in New Zealand made submissions to them and said that's dumb, but they went ahead and did it anyway. And then we had a change of government, and about a year later they decided, oh yeah, that's dumb. Let's go back to giving them only one free resit, and then they start paying again to try and motivate them to learn how to drive properly, instead of using the poor test examiners as guinea pigs.
His position on this road has been good apart from the 2 occasions where he met the oncoming vehicles. His speed on the bends has also been safe without being too slow, but his speeds on the straight are a little bit low compared to how fast he could go while still being safe.
Okay. A little bit of a hazard that I think Jason purposely set up for me. He asked that car to be there.
But he's going fast enough that it's unlikely he'll be marked for going too slow on the test.
End of road left.
Maybe something else of interest, our giveaway lines are solid white and not broken white. I actually prefer the broken white myself.
Pull up on the left, please. As soon as you can. I'm now going to ask you to do the emergency stop.
Okay.
I only do the stop if I put my hand out and say stop. You may see me look behind to make sure it's safe first.
Okay.
Drive normally until I give you the signal to stop. Okay?
Yes. Understood.
Move away when you're ready. Stop.
By the end he was braking hard, but at the beginning that was way too soft.
I won't ask you to do that again. Continue to follow the road ahead when you're ready.
Look around.
Good observations before moving away after the emergency stop. He checks both blind spots. However, the stop itself was far from good enough. He reacted well, but the first half of his braking was way too soft to be a pass. This would certainly be a serious mark for controlled stop. I fast forwarded that section because there wasn't much to deal with for the last few minutes, but let's see how he deals with the residential area.
Another difference at home is that car there, that Opel, is it? Vauxhall, would get a ticket for parking the wrong way. I've seen it happen. I'm not allowed to do that in New Zealand. Here, either side is okay.
So far he has had a safe speed and position for dealing with the parked vehicles. When he is close to the parked vehicles he is slow, and when he is further he speeds up. But I used the dual control brake to slow him down a little bit to give the Pigeon time to get out of the way. However, this is unlikely going to be marked on the driving test.
Carry on.
Paul is a very relaxed driver and he's making me feel safe the way he drives around these residential roads. Although I didn't feel safe towards that Pigeon, he needed to slow down more to give that Pigeon time to fly out of the way. But generally his speed is appropriate for the situation. He maintains a safe distance from the parked cars, and when he needs to get close to the parked cars he goes slow enough to keep it safe, and he checks his mirrors before he moves to the right and the left when he's dealing with obstructions. However, he does signal before checking his mirrors, and you can get marks down for this on the driving test, but I doubt this would actually lead to a fail, even though he's been doing it quite consistently throughout this test, because generally his awareness of his surroundings are very good. So I think the examiner would have a word with him about mirrors before signal, but still not fail him based on that, although he has already failed this test for other things, so that's a little bit irrelevant. I'm going to fast forward the rest of this residential area now because not a lot happens.
Road left.
As the rear camera, which I use for sound, has switched off, you don't get to see that he pulls out in front of a car at the next junction. Not dangerously, but enough to make that car slow down, and this would likely be a minor mark for junctions observations.
Mini roundabout right.
It's as if he has heard me. He checks his mirrors before signalling at this mini roundabout, and he approaches at a speed where he is able to stop safely and smoothly until he knows it's safe to commit to go.
To resist the temptation.
Next road left.
There is only one car coming here and it's a really tight squeeze, so ideally he should just let that car come through and then go through with ease, but he decides to squeeze through the narrow gap. However, he does do it safely, so it's not a major concern.
Next road right. Pull over on the left, a safe place.
We're now coming to the end of the test.
Okay.
That's the end of your test.
Oh, really? That went quick. They always say if you're enjoying yourself, time flies.
You didn't pass.
I didn't pass.
Better luck next time.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Can I inquire as to why?
You can turn the engine off.
Certainly.
Richard will explain.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Unfortunately, one of the cameras stopped working. It stops recording after 29 minutes and I forgot to reset it halfway through like I normally do, so the sound quality would have been probably lower for the last 10 minutes or so of that. But I've gone through the test in my head. I've written all the points down. Any idea why you didn't pass? Now this is 100% you would not have passed. This is not like me being harsh, me taking the harshest example. Any examiner would have had to fail you that for that on, and you might have seen my notes as I was writing them there, so you might be...
Oh, no, honestly, I haven't seen your notes. I did see what you were doing,
Yeah.
as in you got out of the car and had a bit of a look around.
That was just for my own interest.
Right.
That wasn't for the test.
So clearly, you know, any examiner in the UK would have failed me.
Yep.
The two things I can think of that I probably should have done better was the narrow roads, and especially with that big tractor, you know, combination thing coming, and I ended up diving into the rough.
Yep.
Because I approached it too fast, didn't react soon enough.
You reacted soon enough.
Slowing down more.
You then
Maybe.
came off the brake and decided to drive quite on a bumpy off-road
Yes,
bit where
it
you
was.
can damage the car.
Yes, it was. I was about to say I was dropping into the rough, and I could hear the brushwork, the hedge work going clickety-clack down the mirror.
That isn't my most certain reason why you would have failed though.
Okay.
The one that's 100% for me is
Yes.
the emergency stop.
Okay.
That was way too soft.
Right.
Way too soft. That was almost like the first half of it
Yes.
was barely an emergency
Yes.
stop. And then at the end you got hard enough.
Yes.
But I actually find examiners usually quite harsh on that.
Right.
If there's much of a delay, you don't pass.
Right.
There wasn't much of a delay, but it was like, I asked for an emergency. Oh, now we're doing it.
Yes.
Sort of like very soft, harder and harder
Yes.
and harder. It's,
I do agree. It did feel like that to me as well. I remember thinking, oh, I've got to be quick here, and then I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm not going to be the tradesman who blames his tools, but I wasn't sure how hard I should be using Richard's
ideally,
brake.
that should just be a full ABS.
Full on, yes. Yeah, right from the get-go.
As soon as I say stop, you're on that brake as hard as you can, getting
Yes.
the ABS to do its job.
Yes.
If it was a car without ABS, then you should be on the brake as quick, as hard as you can without it skidding.
Yes.
So it's harder. And you
Right.
might skid a little bit.
Yes.
I learned to drive before the car that I was driving in had ABS.
Yes.
ABS did exist, of course, but
Yes.
the car I learned to drive in didn't have ABS, and it was okay for me to lock up in bits.
Yes, during the emergency stop.
Yeah, as long as I controlled that. But
Yes.
a soft stop, miles away from locking up, is not good enough. It
Yes.
needs to be a threshold, close to locking up.
Right.
And if you've got ABS, use it.
Yes. Okay.
So
yes.
that would 100% be, that would not be a pass.
I do remember just after I did that, and I was thinking, I don't think that was hard enough.
Yeah.
I don't think that was hard enough for the first half of it.
But we've spent a bit of time on that one, so let's quickly go through the rest of them. The country road, as you said, with that tractor, you saw it and I thought, that's not enough space. What you should have done is slow down. If you needed to move off the road carefully, wait, and then let the tractor come past, move back onto the road carefully, and then carry on. Not
Yes.
drive off the road,
Yes.
risking damage to the vehicle.
Yes. Okay.
And before that, you did actually hit a bush as well, which did cause a bit of a scratch. I can see it there in the mirror on the side of my car. I should have taken the wheel. A bit annoyed myself that I didn't there, because maybe it's because you're a driving instructor as well. I feel less inclined to want to do that.
Yes.
Or not less inclined to want to. I wanted to,
Yes.
but something stopped me, and I shouldn't have allowed that to happen. I should have just pushed you away, because now I've got it'll come out, but I've got to buff that scratch out the side of my car. And there's no need to hit it. We could have gone round it. So you're too close to the edge. You're willing to hit bushes, and you're willing to drive off the road in rural areas at a speed which is fast enough to damage a car. If you're going to leave the road, if you've got a narrow road or you need a passing place that is broken with big holes in it, you should be doing that gently. There's lots of narrow roads like that around here, and that's how you deal with them. Big tractor, okay, where can we pass safely without risking damaging the car? Sometimes you may have to reverse. It's a 60 mile per hour limit, which is not a target. Your speed on that road was a little bit slow in places. You could have, on some of the straights, got up a bit more speed. On the bends, it felt pretty good. I don't think for a learner test you would get marked down for that. Maybe for the driving instructor test you would. You probably expected to go a little bit faster on some of those straights to get more out of the road, as you were expected to drive at a higher level for the part 2 instructor test. And then there's 3 things that are serious. This one is maybe. So we've got the emergency stop, definitely. Driving off road on country road, most likely. I think that is most likely a serious. I don't think you get away with that one. This one I'm not sure about though. Traffic lights turned red. You stopped, and the wheels were on or slightly over the line. It was hard for me to know exactly. I was looking, thinking we are not stopping before the line here. You stopped over the line. Whether they would let you off or not, maybe, maybe not. That's not a definite, you've gone over so much, you've definitely failed there. You might get away with that, maybe not. There is traffic light camera on that traffic light as well. It's the only traffic light camera in Colchester.
Really? Okay.
You went over the line. But I'm fairly certain you're not going over that line enough to set the camera off.
Set the camera off.
Yeah.
So the traffic light cameras will work even if you're stopped, but with your nose too far.
I don't
over.
actually know the threshold. If someone does know, let us know in the comments what the threshold is. I've never tried it. I don't know what it is. How far you need to go over the line to set the camera light off. But going on it a tiny bit, I've seen plenty of people do that and it doesn't go off. So I'm quite confident about that. Right. So now just go through some of the more minor marks. You hit the curb during the reverse park. You would likely get a minor mark for that. At the roundabout, you did some late lane changes. So that's causing an issue. There was one roundabout where you had to go round it again. Now, I don't think that would be marked as anything though, because you dealt with that safely. You don't know the area, you're in the right lane. The road markings are faded. And then you figured out, oh, I'm too over to the right now to leave. So I can't really blame that on you. And then you dealt with it safely. Then you decided, no, I can't leave now, that's too dangerous. And you went round again and then left. But you are changing to the left lane to leave late on roundabouts, causing you problems. So if you're taking exit 4 and you're in the right lane, as you're passing exit 3, you want to be drifting into that left lane so you're ready to leave. Especially on a big roundabout. The bigger the roundabout, the more important that is. The smaller the roundabout, the less you need to do it, to the point where it doesn't really matter if it's so small. So that way, when you're in the left lane, you're in the lane to leave the roundabout. You're not diving over the left lane into the exit in the last moment, where a car behind you, you're leaving them space there where they could come up alongside you as you try to leave. So if you close the door, stop that. If you close the door by changing lane, that will stop that happening. A little bit over the 20. I'm racking my memory now. I hope I haven't forgotten any things. If you went much over, when I did look, it was a little bit over.
I think 22, 23.
Yeah. Long enough though, I think that may be a minor. And it's a 20, so there's not much give there. It's only 20 miles an hour. So 2 over is quite a bit. It's quite a percentage, isn't it?
Yeah, we in New Zealand it's 4, but that's in kilometres per hour, so miles per hour it's probably only 2.
Yeah, that comes down to the examiner. They look at the situation. Did the person know the speed limit? Was it a short-term accident? If you thought it was 30 when it was 20, that would be a fail. If it was maybe downhill and you went just a little bit over and you came back down again, and maybe you even went 4 over, maybe they'll let you off. If they can see a reason why it happened and it was short-lived. So it's up to them. their decision based on whether they think you're trying to stay within the speed limit and you know the speed limit.
Yes.
They
Okay.
generally
good.
let you off a minor accident. So I think that would just be a minor.
That sounds very similar to the way it's judged in New Zealand.
Signalling left after passing. Oh yeah, when you pass parked vehicles, you signal left. That's misleading.
Yes.
So that would probably.
When I passed parked vehicles. Okay, yes, so I drifted to the right, drifted back to
It's
the
not
left.
a necessary signal, and it
Yes.
can cause confusion because when you pass a parked vehicle, everybody knows you're going to go back to your half of the road. You signalling left now is telling people, I'm going to pull over,
Yes.
or I'm going to turn
So it
left
looks
somewhere.
like, yes.
Yeah, so when it comes to signals, use a signal if it helps somebody. If that signal could be misleading, it's better not to use it. So if
Yes.
it looks like you're doing one thing, but you're actually doing the other, it's actually better not to
To
signal.
not. Yes.
Yeah.
And I do remember you saying no signal is better than a misleading signal.
Exactly, and that's
Yes.
what it is. And I think
Yeah.
some of your signals there, where you're signaling, it's unnecessary,
Yes.
and it could be misleading. If I see someone signalling left, I'm thinking they're pulling over at the side of the road.
Yes.
So that's where people might get confused, and they might think, oh, let's go to overtake you then.
Yes.
I slowed you down for the Pigeon.
Mm.
I find that wouldn't be marked on the test. Don't want you hitting the Pigeon or damaging my grill or something. Below 20 miles an hour, you don't hit pigeons.
Right.
I've found that to be the case. If you see a bird in the road, like a pigeon or a collared dove, not crows, they're fine. Magpies fine, just pigeons,
Right.
very slow, and squirrels.
Okay.
Two.
Yes.
Get it down to 20 and you never hit them.
Right. They'll move in time.
There's a myth that you can't avoid animals. That's not true. You can avoid animals, but you shouldn't avoid a small animal and cause an accident in trying to do so.
Right. Causing danger.
Yes, and
Yeah.
there's a bird standing in the road. It's not dangerous just to slow down a little bit, let them get out of the way and carry on.
Yes. So the birds of that size and that calibre will understand an object approaching at 20, but they don't
in my
really
experience,
understand.
when above, that's when I've hit some.
They-
Because
yeah.
that's what I've noticed. If I get it below 20, then they go out of view,
but they'll
but
still.
they still get out of the way in
Right.
time. Never hit any birds below 20.
Right.
30, lots.
Yes.
And that's why I've learned that over the years. That's what I need to do
Interesting.
to
Right.
avoid them.
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, that wouldn't be marked. So I'll end the video here and I'll talk to you about anything you want to talk about afterwards. How did you find the drive? How do you find driving in this country?
It's certainly different to New Zealand.
Yeah.
The best comparison I often say to people is that where I come from, I live on an island, the South Island. England is not an island, I know that, but if you were to take off Wales and Scotland and just called England the island, I think you have something like 60 million people. We have 1 million people. So for every person and maybe every car you see in New Zealand, you're seeing 60 here.
Yeah.
So that makes a big difference.
It's busy, isn't it?
And of course you don't have the same sort of space that we have. Yes, there's some narrow streets like we saw on the video today where I live, but it's an old suburb. Most of the suburbs where I live, they're pretty big streets, pretty wide. You can park cars on both sides of the road, and you could still have two rubbish trucks pass each other at the same time. On maybe
A lot more space.
70% of our city roads would be like that.
How do you find Jason?
Jason, interesting character.
He doesn't represent real. I don't know any examiners who are like that. I'm just trying to have a little bit of fun there.
Yes,
The
yeah.
examiner
Jason.
from hell.
Jason sounds like he was a secret agent from hell, and he certainly wasn't going to let me know anything about his background. Engaging in polite conversation with him was somewhat futile.
Yeah. Not sure if I should use him or not, but it's a worst case scenario. The worst
Yes.
examiner you could possibly
Why
get.
not?
Maybe
Yes.
you could make it worse than that.
Yes, we have examiners in New Zealand who exactly the same. We have some that are very stern and very much like the old school mum who won't say much and can drop her glasses down and look down her nose at you, and others will bend over backwards to try and help people out to calm their nerves.
That's the thing. All humans are very different,
we
aren't
have
they?
a range, yeah.
Right, so I end the video there. If you found it interesting, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for car insurance, check out the links to Collingwood and Confused in the description. If you're learning to drive and want to insure yourself on somebody else's car, then Collingwood are there for you, because you can do so without affecting the owner's policy. And that takes away a big stress from the owner of that car. Via the link at the moment, it's up to 35% off and a £20 Amazon gift card. If you want to insure your own car, I recommend checking out the link to confused.com, because you fill out one quote form and get loads of quotes back from many insurers to compare who's cheapest, and you can change your car on that quote as many times as you like, which is a quick and easy way to compare how much it costs to insure different cars without having to fill out loads of forms. Using the links doesn't cost you anything, but it does support the channel, so thank you very much. Subscribe to get my future videos, and until the next one, cheerio.
Cheerio.